Welcome back to Beantown Fantasy Football. It's week 8. We're in the thick of it now. With me is Mark Fury. I'm the Jaker. This is the running back edition. Mark Fury, who do you like at running back at week 8? Who should the fans like?
Well, this week I like Kevin Smith going against the St. Louis Rams. I mean, I can't lie. This game's going to be terrible. Probably the two worst teams in the NFL. Maybe Kansas City and Cleveland are fighting for a spot in there too. But this game, nobody's going to watch it. But you should probably care about it because there are going to be a couple of guys who can give you good fantasy numbers and lead you to victory. Smith has really struggled this year. He hasn't played well at all, partially because the offensive line is so bad. But St. Louis has one of the worst run defenses in the league. They're giving up 135 yards a game. I look for Smith to be the one guy who can really get this offense to go against St. Louis, especially with Stafford and Calvin Johnson banged up. Start Kevin Smith this week.
Yeah, I like Kevin Smith going against St. Louis, as a matter of fact. Right, you got to bench somebody. Who's it going to be?
Well, I'm going to bench Knowshon Moreno against the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore's defense isn't quite as good as it used to be, but they still rank 7th in the league against the run. Add to that Moreno is kind of struggling this year. He's only averaging 3.8 yards a carry, and Correll Buckhalter is playing pretty well, and he's getting touches and taking them away from Moreno. There are definitely better options out there. You might be able to find someone like a Smith, or if you're using Moreno to plug him in for someone who's been struggling a little bit, someone like a Matt Forte. I see Forte maybe having a better weekend this week, at least better than Moreno will. So go ahead and bench Knowshon Moreno and find someone else to put in.
Very nice. All right, so Knowshon's a no-show this week. Let's talk about who I'm going to be starting, and that is LeSean McCoy of the Philadelphia Eagles. Brian Westbrook banged up with a concussion, game-time decision. Nevertheless, he, at the very least, would split carries with McCoy. I think this is the week that Andy Reid has really got to take the training wheels off of him, let him run. I think he could certainly run for at least 100 yards and a score this week. The Giants are actually 15th at stopping the run. They're allowing an average of 4.2 yards per carry on the ground. They've given up 725 yards and 10 rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs this season. I think McNabb's going to struggle against the secondary there. And, you know, I think he could have a decent game fantasy numbers again. 100 yards and a score is not out of the question. In a tough bye week, you need a flex play. I think he'll pay dividends.
I like McCoy this week too, mostly because I really don't think Westbrook's going to play. When that injury happened last Monday, it was a pretty scary hit. It didn't look like he was going to get up for a little while. And, it's not as bad as it looked, but I really don't expect him to play. He might give it a go, but even if he does play, he could come out early if that starts acting up. And McCoy he's looked good when he's got his chances this year, and if he's the feature back for that team, he's going to put up some good numbers.
Oh yeah, I absolutely have to agree with that. But let me tell you who's not going to be in my lineup, and it's a little difficult for me because I rushed to pick him up last week, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers did as well. And that is Shonn Greene of the New York Jets, who came in last week and rushed for over 170 yards and 2 scores when Leon Washington went out with that leg injury. And it's probably really tempting to start Shonn Greene this week, especially going into the bye week. If you're in a 12 or 14 team league, honestly, I'd recommend, he could be a starter. Not great points, but anything below that, and you really should try somebody else. He's going against the Miami defense that's allowed a scarce 3.7 yards per carry to opposing backs this season, and ranks 3rd against the run overall. So I just don't see this as a very big game for Shonn Greene. I mean, maybe he'll get his opportunities later, but this isn't the week I'd sit him.
I'd probably sit him too. It's, like you said, in a bigger league, he'd probably be worth taking a shot with. But the bottom line is he's still their second back. He's a rookie. Last week was the first significant action he's seen this year. And I want to see him follow it up before I start plugging him into my starting lineup. For all we know, that could have been, I don't want to say a fluke because he is a pretty good player, but numbers like that, they're not going to come around too often for anybody, especially a guy who's the number 2 back who has limited experience in the NFL.
Yeah, and the defense, like I said, they're going up against is very stingy, so I don't think those two things add up for a very productive day. You have better options out there. Now, we have a question from our viewer.
We have a question from Andrea. It says, I have 3 flex spots to fill, wide receiver / running back, and here are the choices. Reggie Wayne, Frank Gore, LeSean McCoy, Justin Fargas, Lee Evans, and Crabtree. The rest of my roster this week includes Sean Green, Avery, Amendola, and Adai. Well, I got to go with the first three you mentioned on there. Reggie Wayne, Frank Gore, and LeSean McCoy. We already got into McCoy. We both think that he's a pretty strong player this week.
Absolutely.
Frank Gore is a feature back in a run-heavy offense. You got to play him pretty much every week. Indy's tough, but I mean, Frank Gore is a great back. I want him in my lineup. And Reggie Wayne's another one of those guys who every week he's in there. Matchups don't really matter. The wild card with him is he does have a groin injury. He's listed as questionable, but it looks like he's going to go. He did practice. They're expecting him to start, but just keep your eye on that for Sunday morning in case he suffers a setback maybe in warm-ups or before the game starts, and just make a quick switch. If you're going to make a quick switch, I kind of like Crabtree. As the Jaker knows, I'm not a huge Crabtree fan, but with Alex Smith in there at quarterback, Crabtree really looked pretty strong last week. They've been working together in training camp before Crabtree's holdout. During the bye week, he was working with Smith, and they really looked to have some really good chemistry. And Smith was making some great, strong throws. He was making all the throws all over the field. Crabtree could be a solid play if you don't have Reggie Wayne.
Yeah, I think those are outstanding picks. Andrea, we hope that helps you in Week 8. Thanks for watching. That's going to do it for the Week 8 running back edition. For Mark Fury, I'm the Jaker. Keep watching.